that America's words carry weight and meaning, basically telling Donald Trump, stop using your words recklessly. Play this clip.
America's words carry weight and meaning, as they have since independence. The actions of this great nation matter even more.
Then he got a standing ovation when King Charles talked about how the United States Supreme Court has cited the Magna Carta multiple times. In fact, over 160 Supreme Court cases since 1789 on the issue regarding checks of executive power. Again, he's calling Donald Trump out for exceeding what Article 2 executive power should be about. Play this clip.
Roots go even further back in history. The U.S. Supreme Court Historical Society has calculated that Magna Carta is cited in at least 160 Supreme Court cases since 1789, not least as the foundation of the principle that executive power is subject to checks and balances.
Then came the Magna Carta moment. King Charles referenced the fact that the U.S. Supreme Court has cited the Magna Carta in over 160 cases since 1789, specifically on the principle that executive power is subject to checks and balances. The room erupted. Democrats and Republicans stood together in a city where that almost never happens anymore. Trump admitted it himself later that evening. He said Charles got the Democrats to stand, something Trump says he has never been able to do. He called himself jealous. His exact word, jealous.
At a most critical time in the darkest days of the 20th century, American leadership helped rebuild a shattered continent, playing a decisive role as a defender of freedom in Europe. We and I shall never forget that, not least as freedom is again under attack following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Today, our partnerships in NATO and AUKUS deepen our technological and military cooperation and ensure that together we can meet the challenges of an increasingly complex and contested world.
He called for the same unyielding resolve that once defined the alliance. Every single word was a direct counter-narrative to Trump's foreign policy agenda, delivered with a smile at Trump's own dinner table with cameras rolling and the world watching. And then came the language joke. Trump had previously claimed that without America, Europe would be speaking German. Charles looked at him, smiled, and said, "Dare I say, if it wasn't for us, you'd be speaking French." The audience roared. It was elegant. It was devastating. It landed like a precision strike.
And if I may say so, it is a particular pleasure to be back in this wonderful building, the heart of your democracy. On this occasion, I cannot help noticing the readjustments to the East Wing, Mr. President, following your visit to Windsor Castle last year. And I'm sorry to say that we British, of course, made our own small attempt at real estate redevelopment of the White House in 1814.
The room laughed. Trump laughed too, but watch his face closely. He's processing, catching up, trying to figure out whether he just got hit. He did. Then came the trade and NATO remarks. Charles stood firm. He talked about the threats to the very international rules that have kept power in balance for 80 years. He invoked NATO. He invoked Ukraine.
Indeed, you recently commented, Mr. President, that if it were not for the United States, European countries would be speaking German. Dare I say that if it wasn't for us, you'd be speaking French.
Now here's where it gets uncomfortable for the American side of the table. When it was Trump's turn to speak, the contrast was immediate and startling. He attempted a joke about Windsor Castle and William the Conqueror. Nobody laughed. He veered off script to claim that Iran had been militarily defeated, a statement that was not accurate and that no member of his own administration corroborated in the room. He interrupted his own speech to call out golfer Rory McIlroy and ask him to stand up, mid-speech, at a state dinner with a sitting monarch present.
Thank you, Mr. President and Mrs. Trump, for your splendid dinner this evening, which, may I say, is a very considerable improvement on the Boston Tea Party. So, whether your cup contains tea, wine, Scotch whiskey, bourbon, or even cola, let us raise our glasses and voices as we toast the past, the present, and the future Thank you. Of our two proud and allied nations. To the United States and the United Kingdom, God bless both our countries.
A moment in history defined by colonial rebellion against British authority, and Trump toasted back, smiling, touching the king's arm, telling everyone in earshot how much he admired him. Whether he understood what just happened remains one of the most fascinating open questions of this entire episode, and the Royal Communications team has said nothing. No clarification, no follow-up statement, no denial, which raises a question that nobody in the mainstream media seems willing to ask directly. When the most powerful elected leader on the planet can be diplomatically dismantled on live television in his own home by a constitutional monarch with no army and no vote, what does that tell us about who actually holds power in this world? Drop your answer in the comments. We read every single one, and if you are not subscribed to Viral Spills yet, you are missing every story they don't want trending. Hit subscribe now. We are just getting started.
And Queen Camilla of the United Kingdom to the White House. Very special place, very, very special. And I also want to, before we really begin, I want to congratulate Charles on having made a fantastic speech today at Congress. He got the Democrats to stand. I've never been able to do that. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. They liked him more than they've ever liked any Republican or Democrat, actually. So I just want to thank you and congratulations. It's not an easy thing to do. That's a tough place.
But the Congress speech was only round one. By the time King Charles arrived at the White House state dinner that evening, the stage was already set. And what happened over the next hour was one of the most quietly devastating public takedowns in modern political history. Charles opened by complimenting the building, and then immediately twisted the knife. He noted the recent renovations to the East Wing and said, with a perfectly measured pause, that the British had made their own small attempt at real estate redevelopment of the White House in 1814, the year British forces burned it to the ground. He was standing in that house looking directly at Donald Trump, comparing the president's renovation plans to an act of war.
This unstoppable daring, this unconquerable courage, it really is. It's unconquerable. And speaking of that, where's Rory McIlroy? Can stand up, Rory, will you please? That was unconquerable courage. That was very good, Rory. I don't know if that helps them talk about how wonderful the speech, but I had to interrupt my speech because I watched that man win a tournament. That was a tough one. Congratulations. Very proud of you. All right, now I'll get back to my speech.
And then he forgot to toast Melania. But perhaps the most jarring moment of the entire evening wasn't in the speeches at all. It was caught on camera before the formal dinner began. Queen Camilla was working the reception line, shaking hands with Trump's own cabinet members. And then Trump physically moved in front of her, cutting her off, to shake the hands of people who work for him, people he sees every day. The Queen visibly stopped, looked around, and simply stepped back.
He made a great speech. I was very jealous.
And then as the Queen was shaking people's hands, Donald Trump cuts in front of her. Like she's shaking the Trump's own cabinet members' hands, and Trump like pushes the Queen aside to like shake the hands of his cabinet members.
Nobody said a word. Nobody called it out in the moment, but the cameras caught everything. King Charles saw all of it. And if his body language told any story throughout that evening, it was one of a man who has spent a lifetime learning how to say everything while appearing to say nothing. By the end of the night, Charles had defended NATO, challenged trade disruption, cited 800 years of legal precedent against executive overreach, compared Trump's renovation plans to an act of historical vandalism, and closed with a toast that referenced the Boston Tea Party.